So welcome to episode 4 of The Weigh-In, where we look at the competition of Hot Fishin Points, and each week we look at who's ranking well, who needs to improve, and each week we get on a venue expert, and this week we've got Kristian Jones, who is my regular presenter, Rich Chapman, and we're actually on week 13 of the spring season of Hot Fishin Points. So this is officially the end of the results now, but organisers still get 2 weeks to enter the results. So although we're going to look now and have an indication who has won, we're not going to be declaring winners at this point because, like I say, there will be a bit of movement. But so we will do an end of show roundup. So Kristian, welcome to the show this week.
Cheers for having me on, mate. I'm looking forward to having a look through this. We were just speaking then, and I said that even though I have seen a lot about this, I don't fully know how it all works and stuff. So I'm actually interested to learn a bit about it myself as we go through all this now. So
brilliant. So, ask beginner questions as we go through. And we've got Rich Chapman, who has been helping do this for the last few weeks, and he's starting to now see the trends of what's going on and kind of following the stats and knows the venues of what's performing and what's not. So welcome, Rich.
Thank you, mate. So a bit of probably like the most exciting one we've had so far, isn't it? Getting to see almost the final results, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think it's just been so tight as well. I think when we look, some of the leagues, anglers have run away with it, and some of them are so tight that I think it's made it really, really exciting. So let's make a start and look at the majors.
So starting off with the majors, a name that's probably quite regularly at the top of the table on various things over the year. Jamie Hughes looks like he's going to run away with it with 87 points, but I think the important one to know is not entered into the old money side of things. So he'll have won it, but not actually got any money for it. So no big checks or anything for him.
And Kristian, this is something that you were asking. Like, I don't think you understood how the whole paying into it worked, right? I think you said Andy Bennett messaged you saying that you're winning.
Yeah, just winding me up more than anything. I think at one stage I was actually top of this, and he was basically saying, look at this, if you'd have paid in, you'd have been winning this at the minute. So obviously I didn't realise. So something obviously going forward, I'm going to definitely be looking at entering 100%.
So how it works is, so long as the fishing match is scored on the Hot Fishing platform, the results all get put into here. So even if you never pay, never want to get involved, you can see if you're improving each week, because I just want anglers to be able to track their progress. But if you want to be able to win prizes, you can optionally buy a ticket. If you buy a ticket, you get this little ticket icon next to your name, which means you'll be into the prizes. So if you are the highest ranking angler that's got a ticket, you will win first prize. So in this example, Art would be the person who would win that top prize.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So definitely, like I say, something I'm going to be doing looking forward. And as I'm looking down the list now as well, it's surprising me already how many people haven't entered yet. And I'm sure now, I think as I'm learning about it, other people obviously will be learning about it, and they'll be doing the same and buying tickets, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think as we go through it today, there's going to be a lot of people kicking themselves and wishing they got involved. But obviously at the end of it, I think we're going to go through all the sort of payouts and how much it's going to be to enter for next season, because there's been some tweaks and changes that probably make it a bit more exciting, a bit more accessible to everyone across the board, isn't there?
So as you're saying, Rich, there's that well-known angler, Jamie Hughes, who, kind of run away with it at the end, right?
Yeah, I think this week he's stuck a few more points on. He was at the FishO Mania at Heronbrook, which is obviously a venue that he's rather familiar with. I was about to ask Kristian if he was at that one, but he's not got to, because he gets a free pass to the final, don't you?
Yeah, I think looking at this leaderboard, I think I've been a bit of a sort of downfall in my own success in terms of I qualified automatically for FishO Mania, and I actually won the first Golden Reel qualifier of the year. So I haven't actually had that many qualifiers to fish this year, which is obviously good for me in terms of that. But looking at the leaderboard for the majors, it's probably not helped me there because I've just not had as many to fish.
Yeah. So just obviously for Kristian's benefit, what's included as a major? Because obviously there's a big three, your kind of Golden Reel, Maven, Match This, but there's a few others as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's the Fish North, Fish South, Fish Midlands. Some of the on the flyer matches are in here as well. And this season was a bit of a contentious point that the organizer of the match could declare if they thought it was a major or not. So some of the, I think the commercial team matches for Angling Trust were classed as majors and things. And this was a bit contentious because they're kind of festivals, really, aren't they? Like 2-3 day events. So at the moment, there are some matches in here that probably are not going to be classed as majors next season. Next season, a major has to be one of those events that's got a qualifier. So it'll be the qualifiers or the final. But here, I think it was a team commercial at Lindholm, Kristian, where you fished really well, that you got a lot of points for that. That was in that match.
Yeah, so obviously I didn't realise, I just thought that was just purely to do with like the big qualifiers. So there was his other events that go up to that, like you say, as well. So that's probably, like you say, where I got most of my points from. Commercial nationally at Lindholm.
That was the one. Yeah, and like I say, a lot of people were like, kind of festivals and those kind of matches don't really count. And I was like, yeah, fair. I kind of asked a load of people to get some feedback on this. So yeah, we've kind of just put it down to the events with qualifiers. And I'll actually be doing a post tomorrow with the exact matches as well that would count as that. So people can look at it. If they think I'm not going to be any in them, they don't have to enter, but they'll know up front what's going to be in there. I think the contentious point here was because the organizer could decide if it was a major or not, stuff was being added that some people disagreed with. So that's just how we're going to clean that one up.
Right, okay.
I can't add a load of little club matches as majors now then. Little 12 pegger, there we go, wouldn't it? But yeah, so obviously Herrenbrook, Jamie finished 4th overall. Andy said, I've got to mention the fact that he's managed to ounce him 3 ounces to get some money off him.
Well clear of him there, 3 ounces, he's battered him.
That's, at the moment, with like, especially on the challenges this year, I think he's taking that as a win. Doesn't matter if it's 3 ounce or £300, but I think Mikey Williams has sort of run away with that one, ruining quite a nice tight match by the looks of things. End peg on bridge. Have you ever drawn that one, Chris?
I have, but not as it is now. I've been on one bridge. It's actually, since Dean's took over the fishery, he's actually spaced the pegs out a little bit more. So it has actually moved a little bit, but I have been on one bridge before. It's a great peg, and I know Mikey would have really fancied that when he drew it. And I think, there's still a good weight. Looking at the weights on the venue, it's fished a little bit harder than it usually can, Herrenbrook. Sometimes, £200, you're coming 4th or 5th, 6th for Herrenbrook. The weights can be massive, can't they, on its day?
Yeah, I think it's hit that sort of moody time of year with the spawning and everything being a bit awkward. But obviously, Mike has had a mega day, £200, and then other than that, it's been proper close match. Sort of like that £100 to £120 takes you down to 7th, which is mega for a qualifier, but spread out.
I think Chris Weeder will feel unlucky there. Obviously, I know that he really fancied his peg on canal there. It's a good peg on canal, and other than a standout weight from Mikey there, he's probably done the best out of a tight match. But you can get that in qualifiers, can't you, where someone runs away with it? They're drawing a lot of fish, and good anglers on good pegs, they make them bigger weights, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. And Mike is one of those that, despite living in the worst place in the country probably for qualifiers, I think the closest one's probably about 3 hours for him, living in deepest, darkest Wales. You see him all the time at qualifiers. He puts some miles in, so fair play to him. Can't fault him for that. Hopefully he does. Well, you won't want him to win the final, but we'll wish him luck anyway.
Yeah, some good anglers already starting to qualify for that FishO final, I tell you.
That's it. Is that same lake again for the final? Do you know yet? Or
I haven't actually found out, but I'm presuming so. I haven't been told otherwise. I'm pretty sure we're looking at Falcon again for the final, which I think is a good thing, because looking at it last year, I think everyone caught some fish, and I think that's, as long as you can feel like you've got some fish in your peg and you've got something to work from, I think it makes for a good fishing match. So
I think as FishO finals go, it was probably the closest, most dramatic ending one, which obviously, but Hilney was definitely unlucky there, but I think he's probably going to be a little bit consoled by the fact that he's the highest ranked angler with a ticket on the major side of things as it stands. We've got to prefix it with that at the moment, because it could still still change, but it looks like he's probably gonna get it. What's first prize on this one for this season?
This season, the top prize for the majors was 500 quid. Because I was surprised, out of the clubs, the majors and the opens, I thought all the major anglers would be really into this. And obviously, the more that enter, the more prizes we can do. Surprisingly, it's the majors that has been the least joined in with at this point. The clubs and the opens have really got into it. But I think that's going to change now. I think a lot of people like you, Kristian, that don't quite get what it is yet, but seeing it. But I think once people get their heads around it, this is something that the major anglers are going to really get into, because it's like a super league ultimately.
Maybe it is something to do with the fact that, club anglers and it's going to the same venues with the same people all the time. They'll have spoke between themselves about it maybe, and that's why, they join in and whatever. Whereas I think definitely it's going to be the case that a lot of the anglers on this list here, as soon as they realise exactly how it's working and seeing people picking up, good prizes, they'll be straight on it, I'm sure. I think all them anglers will want to definitely get a piece of that, definitely.
Yeah, great.
So that's another one that's been sort of ruined a nice tight competition, isn't it? You've had from second down to probably fifth. Everyone thought they were in contention. Brad Lucas is probably one to grab up, because how old's he? He's only got to be 18 or something, and he's had a mega last couple of weeks on the major side of things. If we pull him up, obviously Maver Dynamite Hayfield, he was second overall, so a bit unlucky, but I was having a look at his blog and everything, and he's fished a mega match. He's had, you can probably help on this, what peg was he on Big Adams? I did have it written down somewhere.
Sure. I'm pretty sure he was, 79, was it? Or somewhere around there?
Yeah, 79, so is that known area, would you say, or
No, it's not a very good area. Well, I wouldn't say it's definitely not a very good area, but it's not where you'd pick on that lake. It's more going in towards the Dead Man's Bay, as they call it there on Adams Lake. Basically, it's just an area of the lake that's a bit more set back from the main lake, so it doesn't tend to hold as many carp. But I actually drew in there in the Maver final last year and ended up fishing for skimmers later on in the match and catching a few of them. And felt like if I'd have really targeted him and had my bait right for him, I could have caught a lot more. And looking at Brad's write-up, he had a massive weight of skimmers, didn't he? And definitely, they're definitely important fish at Hayfield, because they're such big fish, 2 to 3 pound skimmers, to fill your gaps in when the carp aren't really feeding, or if you don't draw on the main shoulder carp, it's, really important.
Yeah, and I think he's actually got up, fished for carp for a bit, got up off his box middle of the match, set up a bit of kit and fishing worms and casters and stuff. I think he's had 85 pound of skimmers in the end out of that 152 pound that he's been second with, and he only needed probably one more carp, because Liam Smith on Island, he's had 167, so probably one maybe 2 carp on there, so proper near miss, but sounds like he's fished a mega match and made the right decision going for those skimmers.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, I always try and talk about this with qualifiers. You've got to go and try and give yourself a chance of winning, but you can also go and not only learn stuff, but also sometimes if you don't draw so well, try and go with a bit of a different approach. And sometimes it can surprise you what you can end up with and how close you can be. Fishing for silvers on a venue which is normally dominated by carp, it can still win at you if it's a little bit more tricky on the day or something like that. So it shows there's more than one way to win them sort of qualifiers or do well.
Yeah, that match of this final was the prime example of it. Going away from it, how the results would have been different if people had kind of gone into it knowing how good the silver fishing was, or knowing it was going to fish iffy, then the results probably would have been very different at the end of it.
100%.
So,
what's interesting to see on the majors as well is the kind of lack of big sways in the changes of ranking each week as well, because obviously people are fishing different matches. It just takes 1 or 2 good wins and you can come right up here. So I think especially for the people chasing the majors, it can change really fast, this league.
Well, that's probably the one, isn't it? Chris Weeder, obviously second at Heronbrook, jumps up sort of 24 places onto the front page of the leaderboard. That's all it takes, 1 or 2 results like that through the season, with them being bigger matches and everything. Other than that, on the overall side of things, of the majors. Obviously, Andy Bennett's entered something and not actually won it. That's probably the biggest shock at the moment. So obviously he's second out of everyone who's entered. You got Tom Scully just behind, John Alexander. I think he was right up there at one point. He had a mega start to the season, qualifying for a couple of things. And then Fran O'Reilly just behind. But obviously for this season, it was just first place on the majors, wasn't it? But I think for next season, it's going to be a lot more spread out on the old money side of things.
Yeah, so this next season, I was going to just do like a bigger top and first and second prize, like a couple of grand and then a grand. And then I got quite a few messages once I put that up by anglers saying, if you just spread that out a little bit, we'd be more likely to enter, because there's so many anglers in it. I think kind of doing smaller and kind of more prizes is the way to go at the start. Kristian, we were talking about this at the start. The value we got of this competition is every angler in the country is in it. So there's 7,000 unique anglers that are part of this at the minute. It only takes a small percentage of them to pay to be part of it. And we can really quickly have some of the biggest prizes in fishing out of any competition at all. And that's obviously the ambition for this. So although it's kind of smaller at the moment, just because it's a new concept, I think as this grows, this will definitely become the biggest prize money in fishing.
That's brilliant. I think, like you said, I think it's, from what I can see already from it and what I'm learning just by obviously being on here with you now, I can see how this is going to go on and just grow and grow and grow, because I think it's just going to get bigger every year, 100%.
Yeah, great.
I just grabbed the calculator up and did a quick 7,000 times 30. Like 200 grand plus in the prize pot every season. That's the one, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's right. It's every season. That's why I wanted to do it like spring, summer, autumn, winter, because I thought if we did it over the year, which I think Camazan used to be like that, right? If someone runs away with it, people are just going to get bored of it. The fact that it's going to keep restarting, and some people prefer different styles of fishing, different seasons of the year, it's just going to keep it exciting, and we can just keep giving out more and more prizes.
Yeah. That's it, and you get people who fish at different times of year. Some lads will only go in the warmer weather, or I'm probably a weirdo and just seem to go in the winter now because that's when I get time to go.
Yeah,
so
you enjoy your silver fishing during the winter, don't you? So that's another campaign in itself, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, I can tap pellets for skimmers, anything more than that, I'm screwed.
Okay, so Rich, let's take a look at the Open League anglers now.
So we've got Roy Bradburn is top in the table at the moment. Partridge Lake's regular, 45 matches fished in a season. That's like, he's putting in some serious bank time there. Yeah. But unfortunately, he's not entered into the old money side of things. Is he? Was he one that you were saying is already booked in for next season, is it?
Not Roy that I've seen. A lot of the other lads have that are at the top. I haven't seen Roy yet. I'm sure Babs at Partridge is going to give Roy a nudge when she sees this.
Yeah, see, I know Roy very well. I know he's a brilliant angler at Partridge, and he fishes quite unconventional as well. He fishes with mussels and different baits like that. And it's amazing how many... That's him. He's a great fella. I speak to him all the time. Top bloke and brilliant angler. And honestly, some of the ways he does it with his fishing with his mussels, you wouldn't believe it, but it works so well, and he wins so many matches doing it. It just shows, doesn't it, a bit of a different approach. And he's top of the Open League. Right?
So I think what I really like about this league as well is how close it is at the top. Like it just takes one. It would have taken just one win here and there to win. Just so you know how the scoring works, Kristian, if you fish more than one match a week, it will take your best session of that week. So that means obviously some people can fish 5, some people can fish 1. It's as fair as we can make it with God. So that's it would just take your best 10 sessions. Each season is 13 weeks, and it'll take your best 10 sessions over the 13 weeks as well. So we've tried to make it as fair as possible, knowing that some people can go more often than others. And I think that has just kept the scoring a bit more interesting. The first season we did this, all matches counted, and it was just clogged up by people that could go 7 days a week on the on the matches. So this has made it really interesting throughout the season, especially after week 10 when you start to get the droppers as well. It's been there's been quite a lot of up and down.
Just looking at it there, just how close it, like you say, it's all staying. I think it just shows that format's worked as well to do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's been one of the battles that's sort of been going on over the last few weeks, isn't it, between Richard Kinnersley and Richard Kings, obviously Westwood and Tunnel Barn anglers. And assuming no more results come in, it looks like Richard Kinnersley's going to come out on top.
Again, he actually won he was the overall winner last year. Do you know Richard well?
Yeah, I know Richard. Obviously, he works in the tackle shop and he helps run some of the matches and stuff, and he fishes there all the time. Really good angler. One of them anglers, I think, that goes under the radar a little bit normally of how many matches he does win, and this is where something like this real shows how well he is doing. Obviously, especially if you say he won last year as well, or last season, or it's really good.
Yeah, I think what's interesting as well, it's not out and out winning matches. He's just been nice and consistent through the year, kind of 4 firsts, 7 seconds, 3 thirds. So it's not just about going out and winning matches and having the odd mega result. It's about going and being consistently framing. But I think, what was his last match that counted, if we grab that one up?
It was this open match here.
So that's interesting, obviously, looking at the weights. I know Westwood, I go on all the festivals. Normally, you sort of, the pegs that you're looking for are sort of pegs 5 and 6 on the point. And 6 did catch there, but the weights are a little bit lower than usual. Obviously, again, with the spawning, and that's what we're saying, that everywhere's fishing a little bit tougher. It's made a bit of a lower weight, but then that's where your anglers like Rich still pulling out 100-pound weights, just finding a way of catching a few fish even on tough days. That's where, that's probably why he's near the top.
That's it, and it's just having that consistency that you can go and pick up points off your sort of tougher draws where you might not be going to win the match. But yeah, looks like it won his section by considerable margin, and I think quite a few of his other results, you look when he's on a decent peg, it's like it's not just sneaking a win, it's proper like destroying the match. I think that one at Swallow, I'm sure he was miles ahead in that one. Peg 5 on Swallow, is that sort of a noted one, Chris?
Yeah, so there's more like how you'd expect in terms of the pegs 5 and 6 on Swallow. They're, like I say, they're just on a point, and basically it's called like Carp Corner. It just holds a lot of the bigger fish. You can catch all the way around Swallow. It's just a brilliant lake in general, but in terms of where the bigger fish and where the matches tend to get won, it's around that point there, like pegs 5 and 6. So obviously an angler like Rich on that sort of peg, he's going to be hard to beat.
That's it, and he's obviously took it out sort of 60-pound clear, almost doubling the rest of the field on there, so obviously knows what he's doing. And shall we have a quick dive into Richard Kings, who's just behind sort of 105 to 108 points. So it's been sort of neck and neck between those two all through the season. Richard Kings tends to fish Tunnel Barn. And I think he has had one more win across the season compared to Richard Kinnersley, but obviously it's a sort of second, thirds and fourths coming into play and bumping the points up. So you can see it's just been steady. What was the last one that counted? Saturday Open.
So I know obviously Rich Kings, he fishes a lot of meat. I know that's the way he fishes short poles. So obviously if he's been doing well, that gives an inkling of what's been working well at Tunnel. I'm actually going there tomorrow to Tunnel Barn and doing some coaching, and then got the Pole Masters next week. So looking that he's been doing well, I might be taking a few tins of meat down with me.
That's it. So that's proper low weights for Tunnel though, isn't it? £53. That's definitely... Well, I know the Fish Midlands qualifier we had there, that was... Although there was a couple of £100 weights, I think that was the same, where they were sort of still in that spawny mood. It was proper moody, and it was almost one of those where you wanted to just get your heads down and fish for stockies rather than trying to find bigger fish. It was just a case of getting bites from whatever you could.
Yeah. What you tend to find, I think, at venues such as Tunnel and Partridge, in places that get heavily pressured, whenever there is a bit of, weather, like at the minute we're having a lot of high pressure, it's very warm, very still, it tends to affect them venues that get pressured quite heavily a lot worse than it does other venues, because obviously the fish don't necessarily need to feed because they're getting fished a lot. So if they don't really want to feed, it tends to just shut down. And then all of a sudden, it wouldn't surprise me if, all of a sudden the weights go straight back up and you're seeing your 200 pounds when the weather settles back down and the fish come back on the feed.
Yeah. Is that something you pay a lot of attention to then, sort of before matches, looking at pressures and weather and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think just to try and help me make me decisions a little bit more simple. So I find that, obviously you go in, it's going to be very high air pressure. It's going to be warm. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be flat calm. Fishing down the middle in the deep water, fishing anywhere other than towards the cover and in the shallow water is going to be probably a waste of time. So I just try and use that to simplify my decision making, really. It doesn't always go exactly to plan in terms of that, but it's just as a bit of a guide. It's well worth looking at.
It was interesting to hear your thinking when you looked at this, Kristian. You said Richard, who you knew the style of fishing he does, which made you think that's probably what I'm going to do when I go there. I think that was a real insight into how an angler like you think, that you not only think your own fishing, you know how other people fish, that you can use.
So obviously I travel sort of here, there and everywhere doing fishing and fishing at different venues. And obviously I try and keep a track of a few anglers at different venues and people who do well all the time to give me a bit of an insight. So I've noticed that Partridge at the minute, Chris Weeder Senior has been doing brilliant. I know how he fishes. He fishes with maggot shallow. So if I was to go there on a match, say at this weekend, I'd know that maggot shallow is probably going to be a good tactic. And I think that does help with, again, making decisions on what bait to take and how to fish. I know he did win yesterday with, I'm sure he had over 200 pound shallow yesterday. I think he might have even won again today. So he's a man on fire at the minute. So it tells you that maggot shallow, them sort of tactics, is working well.
So we had a second on Thursday, first on Wednesday, first on Tuesday. Yeah, he's first on the week before after that. He's a man on form.
I think fishing sort of the way he does and the way Chris Weeder fishes, it's very aggressive, and it's one of those, when it's on, because they'll either destroy the match or sort of come nowhere a lot of the time. And I suppose that's quite a good gauge in having that information to hand, that you can see it rather than just people posting when they're winning sort of thing. You can dive into it, find all the information and kind of make your decisions a bit more based on that. As it stands with the paid on anglers, I think you've got your top 5 on screen at the moment. David Coulson just hanging on to 5th place with 90 points. But when you sort of compare between 1st and 5th place, I think everyone was in contention until last week. Sort of between 90 and 108 points, you can easily swing that round with 1 or 2 good results, can't you? So it's been mega close, sort of through the season, swapping and changing who's on top of the leaderboard. Stephen Kobach, he was sort of right up there and still literally 2 points behind 2nd place, so could have gone any way on that. But I think his last result, he's had a mega one on where was it? Bradshaw's on Lakes 8 and 9. I think he's proper destroyed the match on his last match of the season, so keeping himself in contention on there. And then Alan Hughes in 4th. Do you know Alan at Western regular? Yeah,
Alan fishes at Western all the time. He obviously does really well on there. It'd be interesting to have a look through his results and see what pegs he's been on and how he scored and stuff like that, and I can give an insight into them sort of lakes on there. I've actually been coaching today on Stretton, so what's really interesting on there is this year he's put a lot of stocky F1s in, and they're not tiny, but they're just sort of smallish pound F1s, 12 ounce to a pound. So all these weights, there is some old bigger fish getting caught as well, but a lot of these weights is lots to bite. So even for say 80 pound 2nd and 3rd, they'll have had loads and loads of fish. So it's really good fishing at the minute on Stretton, to be fair.
Is it mainly F1s now rather than the sort of Ide and Barbel and all that sort of thing? Because he was putting some of those in other lakes, wasn't he, this winter?
Yeah, he's put some Ide and some Barbel in as well, but obviously the hide in there that he's put in, the probably 4 to 6 ounce average. They tend to grow on really fast at Western. He stocked hide before, and he'll put them in at sort of 4 to 6 ounce, and they'll be nearly a pound before you know it. But at the minute, because the F1s are the slightly better fish, fishing with pellets, long pole, short pole with pellets, a lot of pellet shallow, catching a lot of these stocky F1s. They're the fish to be targeting on there at the minute. But even then, the nice thing about Stretton is there's a lot of sort of your older 8 to 12 pound carp, or even up to 15, 16, 17 pound, but the average is sort of 8 to 12 pounds. So even if you have fell behind on the stockies, you can still claw it back a bit in the edge late on. So it's quite, I really like that lake. That's why obviously we went on there today doing some coaching. So really good.
And we see that you are fishing a lot of opens yourself, Chris. And is that, as you said at the start, because you've qualified for so much stuff early?
I think earlier on in the year, sort of April time, just as it first warmed up, April, May time, I was fishing a lot of opens. Last few weeks, I've been a lot more busy with festivals. That's really come thick and fast. But I was doing a lot of fishing at Partridge, and now I've been fishing Western these last few weeks. It's been really good.
Do you tend to sort of go on little like campaigns at certain venues where you spend a bit of time at one and then sort of move on somewhere else rather than flitting and changing all over the place?
Yes, I just sort of I go somewhere and I catch a few fish, or I might not catch some fish, and then I get a bit of a bug to want to go again and try and put it right, or go and improve on little things. If I come off the bank and I think, well, like talking about Western, I fished 2 matches consecutively on Weir, which you can see there Monday the 29th and then Friday the 2nd of June. And on the first one, even though I had a really good day, I felt like I'd not got me short line and my edge lines correct. So when I seen there was a match on the Friday on Weir, I wanted to go back, and I basically just tried to fish short in the edge, just to try and learn and try and make things better. So I do that as well, just almost practicing and trying to improve little aspects of my fishing in the open matches as well.
And you did improve, right? That was quite an improvement.
Yeah, so honestly, a bit of a drawback that day, I've got to be honest. It was a bonus peg match, and peg 2, like I say, is one of the pegs I mentioned that might have a good chance in the FishO Mania qualifier. It's an M peg. We've got a bit of room in the corner, holds some big fish. Debbie at Western, she drew out the bonus peg 2, and I said, oh, that'd be lovely, I hope I draw that. And then straight in the bag, second person out of the bag, and I drew it. So it was a bit of pressure to go and win, but luckily there was a load of big carp there and had a lovely day. So that was I got a bit of stick for that. But no, it's good.
Is that the Peter Crouch that was fishing as well?
yeah, Peter Crouch, the Liverpool and Tottenham legend, Peter Crouch. Western tactic wise, that's been working for people who are going on the FishO qualifier and stuff, and it's ground bait and maggots down the edge, and casters shallow has been the main baits, bit of mugging because there's been warm weather and everything. Nice and simple fishing, but it's been good.
Brilliant. So the people that win the opens this season, so it's 750 for top, 500 for 3, 2. So it was 50 quid in this season, which I think was kind of probably a bit much. It was a consideration to pay for that. So this season coming into it, we dropped it. I spoke to loads of the different venues, and they said if it was 30 quid, I think people wouldn't even think about it. So we dropped the price this season as well, and we're paying out the top 10 instead. And as we've said a few times on this call already, as this snowballs, the more people get involved, I think that's just going to just keep going up.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you break it down as well, when it starts being 30 quid, it's like £2.50 a week or something, or less than £2.50 a week, and it's like you don't even get a pint of maggots for that now, and it's no different to paying a quid into a golden peg or something like that, is it? At the end of the day, so, and obviously with a lot bigger prizes than most of those sort of things, but yeah, definitely.
I guess people don't think like this, but I kind of am on this side. Like, yes, it's nice as the anglers, you can win some more money and stuff, but I think this is going to help us still have a sport in 20 years' time. But it's good to see that we've got some of these young anglers fishing at competing at the top of the majors, but I still think there's more to do to get more younger and newer people into the sport. And I think having something like this where outsiders looking in can have a better understanding of how it works. I think scribbled up weigh sheets are not going to get anyone excited and help them understand what the sport is. So I'm hoping with this as well, yes, I want the anglers to win some money now, but I also hope they see it as an investment in the future to kind of keep it growing.
Yeah, well, that's it. Knowing where you rank, and like most other sports do have some sort of ranking system, is consistent across the board. But fishing, you've never had anything like that until now, and I suppose everyone likes to have a brag when they're sort of winning matches and stuff, but this gives a proper sort of detailed breakdown, and you can see how people actually are doing rather than making themselves look a hero on Facebook.
All right, guys, so now we're looking at the club league, and this one there's been a bit more of a runaway with it with Steve Johnson, who will be kicking himself that he didn't buy a ticket, but I think he was the first person to buy a ticket when they went on sale. So he has learned the hard way, but he did learn.
That's it. So he's one that's gonna be missing out. But I think the prizes on this one are ridiculous as well, because obviously you've got a load of backing. Obviously, on top of the money, you've got a load of backing from Preston. So you've got like coaching days from Des Ship for the winner, rods and reels and all sorts of stuff that you'll see on the screen. So that's mega to see Preston get involved. So proper like bumping up the prize fund.
And Sonu as well threw in some bait as well, because I think they just saw that this is something good for the sport, and I think they wanted to be associated and help us push it.
Yeah, so that's it. By the time you got your sort of 750 quid cash, coaching day with Des, you're probably going to be like 300 quid or something, 220 quid. You've almost double the prize with sort of add-ons from Preston, so that's mega to see. And obviously throughout the tape, that top five, they all get a load of bait, bit of gear and everything as well. So hopefully that continues and more sponsors get on board and get involved with it for next season. And
a few of the clubs that have been in touch with me about this said that it's the coaching day with Des that people want more than anything. I've had quite a few of them say that if you know the banter at the start of the matches and how much people wanted that, so that's really good to see that something they put in is so desirable.
Yeah, and it's getting them wanting to go out and try and win that just as a bit of an incentive. And like you say, I think more and more people now and companies will be looking to give prize. I'm sure they will when they're seeing, we're doing well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, and that's what I was hoping for the venues of why they'd want to be part of this. And I am hearing that they know that anglers now are turning up because they want their points, where it may be a bit of a rainy day and they'd probably have less people turn up. There's people turning up now because they want their points, and that's what I want. I want that kind of, I want it to the venues see that if we're part of this, it's actually going to be good for our bottom line, good for the sport, obviously, and good for the anglers. But as a business, you want to see that it's actually putting bums on seats as well.
Yeah, and at that club level, it's one of those where it's never been about the money, but for those lads who do want to have something a bit extra to fish for and a bit more motivation to keep going through the course of the season, something like this, you've never been able to fish at club level and win like nearly $1,000 in cash and a load of other stuff, have you? So it's mega to see that it covers all levels as well. So I think going as it stands, what have you got? You've got your top 6 paid on anglers on screen at the moment, but it looks like Ken Rolfe is probably going to be in 5th place if it stays as it is, depending what results come in. But that's probably one to look at as well, because he's tied with Ray Stevens, who is both on 61 points.
Who I know are both very good friends, so I think they'll really enjoy that. We're going to dig into those. And I must admit that they were 2 of the first ever users of Hot Fishin. They were using this when it was a rickety piece of crap and barely worked. So they have been with us from the start. So I'm happy to see these boys winning some money.
He's one that's interesting to look at, that is a prime example of it's not about winning matches, it's just being consistent. I think he's only had one win over the course of the season, a couple of seconds, 1/3 I think it was, but it's just keeping that consistency there, being in a match every week. Where was he at? 3rd at Coleman's. Old Stepfield, not been there for years. Used to fish there quite a lot.
What's particularly
that's a venue you don't hear as much about at the minute, isn't it? Coleman's Cottage. I used to see it a lot more than I do nowadays.
Yeah, they stopped having the qualifiers there a few years ago. I think they turned it into more of a clubby type venue. So they have, think you have to be a member to fish on the opens. It's one of those, like similar to the glebe, how they've set it up. So yeah, you don't see it on the big qualifiers and stuff like you did a few years ago.
Yeah, looking at the weights, it's still some good weights coming out.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know the venue a little bit better than me. What sort of fishing will that be? Will that be carp or F1s?
On New Stepfield, I think he's moved a load of the carp round, because it used to just be F1, like F1s and a few carp in there, but I think he moved a lot of carp into there from Woodlake, I think it is. But it's they were one of those. They just moved them as I was sort of stopping fishing it, and they were they've been so clued up in the one lake where they got pressure. They moved them into a snake lake, and they're just horrible fish to catch. They're one of those where you can see them all the time cruising around, but like actually trying to catch them, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's good to see they're still having decent matches there. 168 pound, but winning that one.
Good to see about here for any of the clubs listening as well, and for you to know, Kristian, how the scoring works is you get 10 points for winning your match, down to 1 point for 10th place. But you also get a 5% bonus for how many were in your match to reward you for winning bigger matches. So to give you an example that I always say is easy, if there's 100 people in your match, 5% of 100 is 5. So you get 10 points for winning it, plus your 5%, 5 points bonus. So you get 15 points for winning that match. So it always just gives you a bump if you win these bigger matches, if there's over 15 in the match. If there's less than 15, so I think you're kind of between 10 and 8 is a minimum. Between 10 is a minimum match that qualifies for this. So between 10 and 15, you get less points for winning your match and you don't get the bonus. But I can see that Ray and Ken are fishing in matches with kind of like 10 people as well. So they've been really consistent in matches where they're getting nowhere near the points as the other matches as well. So I think the clubs that are fishing, the smaller clubs that are watching, if you're just consistent and constantly up there, I mean, these guys are in with a point. So I think that's just a point worth mentioning.
That's it. So, but yeah, so obviously Colin, Booty, another one sort of Essex. There's quite a few in that Essex Bet Club, isn't there? You see sort of 3 or 4, so there's going to be a lot. That's probably a nice one, isn't it? When you get a few lads from the same club sort of involved and following it, this just makes it a bit more exciting on the day that obviously you're fishing for that, and you can see it on the national level as well. But you can see Martin Price, Tunnel Barn regular. I think he's on a lot of the over 50s matches, I think it is. But that's probably one worth pointing out as well, that for anyone watching, it's not just commercials involved, is it? You've got Tom Barlow there, Deep Canal Matches is who he's signed up with. So fishing canals and stuff like that, weight is pretty much irrelevant on this. It never comes into play in the scoring, does it? So whether you're winning a match with sort of £2 on a canal or £250 on a commercial, if you're winning big match, or if you're winning matches or framing regularly matches, you're getting the same amount of points. And you can see he's right up there with 84 points. If he'd have brought a ticket, he'd definitely have picked up some money. So that's kind of competing. You can see people fishing Tunnel Barn down south in like Coleman's and places like that, that it all comes into play. So, and then I think highest.
I think it's going to be really exciting this season as well, because I've seen so many clubs signing up in the last month or so. So these clubs that weren't part of this from the start, from the summer season, which is now, it started on Monday, the 5th of June, so a couple of days ago, they're all going to be in there from the start. So I think it's going to be really interesting in this now that all those guys are going to be getting points from day one.
I think club stuff, it's a no-brainer to just sign up as a club to do it, because I've seen, like, my dad's ended up doing a lot of the sort of paperwork for the club he's involved in. He's got like loads of different Excel sheets and stuff, trying to keep track of it all, printing it all off. It just makes it so much easier having it on one platform where you can have everything there. Everyone can access it and see it and check the results and see how they're doing. But it's just far easier than messing about with sort of emailing people, or half the people in the club won't have a blooming WhatsApp or something like that. And it just gets so confusing trying to do it, that just having it in one place makes it so much easier, so much cleaner. And I suppose for actually seeing your matches and what you've got coming up as well, can't you?
Absolutely. I mean, to dig a little bit into how this works for the organisers, once the organisers create an account on here, They get a free page like this so they can brand, they can put their logo all over it. Then they can list all their matches here. So any match they score, if someone wants to learn about the club, they can see the match results. It puts all their scheduled matches. They have a match search. So this is all free for them to use. And I think if you're a club trying to grow and trying to bring people into the sport, as you say, Rich, it makes no sense to not use this because it's free.
Yeah, that's what people are trying to. They spend hours on Excel trying to make it all work, but this is just ready to go. Plug in your results, tell it who's fishing, and its job's a good one. But obviously, Mark knew it. He's going to be top of the paid ones at the moment, so he's got potentially, providing the results don't change too much on any that are submitted in the next week or so. He's going to have a nice coaching day with Dares and all sorts of other prizes coming his way. But I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on the Facebook page and everything, because I think you're going to do an announcement on there. We'll probably do one of these as well with all the finalised results once everything's come in, so we can keep an eye out for that, especially everyone who's up there and in contention.
Exactly. I think, this is a snapshot today. Let's let the few weeks and let the final close. And then we'll do another session where we'll actually try and get some of these anglers on, have a chat to them, speak to them about their season, and just trying to get I think what we're trying to do with this competition is just kind of get people rallied around the sport and look at it like you do every other sport, where you have leagues that you can look into and kind of gather around and stuff. I think it's just, I think it's hopefully going to kind of gel the sport a little bit more and give us something to gather around. On the overall table now, Kristian, this is every match combined. So if you fish clubs and open matches, the club league will just show you club matches, the opens will just show your open, but then the overall will combine them all together. So I think if you're going to do a competition like this, we have to be able to crown the best angler of the season, right? That's the thing that people are looking for. I think what's great to see is Steve Johnson is a club angler, right? I think he was the top of the club league. So I'll probably add that in for the next time we look at this, if they're a kind of club, open or major angler, because the reality is they're a mix of all those in there. So I think that's really good for the sport that people from all the different standards are together. Yeah,
that's it. And it's obviously not to rub it in or anything. If it stays as it is, club, he'd have got a load of prizes for that. And I think there was a bonus, was it £500 on top for the highest ranked overall as well? So yeah, he's going to be in a bit of trouble for missing out on, over £1,000 that he's missed out on there, unfortunately. But when you look at the points, that's the interesting one. Overall, obviously, between 7,000 anglers or whatever it is, you've got literally a tie on points, haven't you? It's come down to first and how many firsts you've had through the course of a season. He's come out just above Richard Kinnersley, but working in Richard's favour, he's obviously brought a ticket, so he's going to get a few pennies for that.
It worked in his ticket. So what happens if you draw on points? We go down to how many firsts you've got. So if you click this drop down here, it'll show you how many firsts, seconds, and thirds. So if you click the drop down here, he had more firsts, which is what it dropped, what it came down to. I almost didn't add this feature in because I'm like, no way are people going to draw on points at the end of this. But after 2 seasons, it's happened. So thank God I've done that. Otherwise, I'd get a load of questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question because I noticed that they were both joint on points, and I was going to ask how come, what was the difference between Steve and Richard? But that's obviously a good way to reward the people who've won more matches. It's good.
And what do you two think for fairness of this? So what we've cut, so there's 40 matches here, but we only put your best 10 to the results. In these firsts here, it's how many firsts from all your matches, not just your best sessions. Do you think it should just be from your best sessions or all of them?
Yeah, probably. I'd probably go with just the first from the matches that you've counted as a result. I think it just keeps it nice and consistent through it all. And I suppose that probably does, as it is counting everything, that's going to favour your lads who can get multiple matches in through the course of a week rather
just to try and stop that advantage, isn't it? I guess by doing it that way. I agree. Yeah.
What's good is no matter which way we did it, Steve would still have won, so we can't lose. And it was Richard that bought a ticket. And I did want to ask you guys, because I know I've got you on this call today. But yeah, that's a really good point. That would favour people that can fish more often. So yeah, so we'll make that as I'll put that in the rules for next season, that these best sessions, the first, second, and third will be based on your best sessions.
Yeah, because I suppose that thing is, isn't it? You can just keep going down and down and down until you work out who's won it. So there will be a way of finding out eventually.
And what's great to see here as well is Lee Thornton has jumped up 43 positions. So like as this prizes go up, like a jump up like that on the last week of the season would have absolutely got you into the prizes as well if we start to pay out the top 10. So I think it's good to see that even in week 13, it can change so much.
Yeah, if you just start having a good, consistent run of results over a few weeks, you can easily go from nowhere to being back in it.
And you, Kristian, you're in fourth position here, right? I know you were saying that you qualified early for the majors, which is good. But as this grows, it'd be great if we could start to put a lot of prizes into the overall as well. Do you know what I mean? I don't want the lads who qualify early for the majors to think, oh, this isn't worth it, because I want the overall prizes to be big enough as well that there's still something for you to go at.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I suppose one stat to sort of look at as well is the actual number of matches fished, and to be able to sort of be right up there in the mix. Obviously, Chris has only fished 25, where there's people around him fish sort of 30, 40, even more in some cases. And then you look at like Tom Barlow, 15 matches fished and is right up there. So it's like just proves how consistent some people are when you've got that sort of low number of matches fished versus being right up there on the point side of things. So it's definitely not having to be fishing 4 or 5 matches a week. You can do it just by being nice and consistent and getting it out once, maybe twice a week.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Looking at, obviously, like you say about Tom Barlow, how high up he is after doing 15 matches, it shows he's had a really good run of results there. It'd be interesting to have a look actually at his results as well. Obviously, I think you said that Tom was fishing matches on canals, again, which is something that maybe I didn't realise. I know that one says that's, I think that's commercial and canal.
Bit of a mix, isn't he? Obviously, Syke House up north, sort of proper mega weight venue, isn't it? Loads of big carp. So if he's doing a bit of everything, probably makes it even more impressive that he's not fishing loads of matches, is swapping and changing between commercials and natural venues. So being able to do that and still rank right up there.
Yeah, and that's something else I've learned just from obviously listening to you talking about this. I didn't know that it was including commercials and natural venues. So I think that's good how the league works with mixing not only club anglers and, you know, open match anglers and anglers fishing the big events, but also naturals and commercials as well. So it just brings everyone together, doesn't it, I guess, in one place.
Absolutely. And if this gets big enough, it's great. I love that everybody's together. I think that helps you rally around the sport. But you've got the filters here that if a nut that you could filter by just the canal matches, just the commercial, just the natural still water, or the different age ranges, gender, venue, organizer, all these different ways. So if enough, let's say we had hundreds of canal anglers in there, we could give out a canal prize specific as well. We can do just a commercial one. So as this grows, the ways that we can slice and dice it to give out more prizes is massive. So it's been built from the start that once we get the volume, we can give out lots of different prizes. But it's a good point. If you wanted to kind of, let's say you're going to fish a specific venue, let's say we were going to go to Western, actually, you can filter down here of all the venues that have been down here. You can find Western, you can apply the filters, and it'll show you of all the anglers that have competed in at least one match at that venue, where have they ranked, where are they ranking in the country, how have they done. Then you can go through, if you're looking to do some venue research, I can click through because I can see Kristian's doing well. I can see what's been going on, what pegs are working. So I think as good as it is for the competition, it's quite a good research tool as well, if you want to find out about specific venues.
Yeah, it's just nice having that bragging rights as well, isn't it? Between your sort of venue regulars that are there all the time, you can go back to Western and be like, yeah, beat you all this week.